The glass doors of my corner office reflect someone I barely recognize. 10 years ago, I was sleeping in my car with $17 and a garbage bag of clothes. Today, I'm the director of innovation at the fastest growing tech firm in Seattle. The worst part about seeing your family after a decade isn't the anger. It's watching your mother's hands shake as she realizes the homeless daughter she threw away is now the person deciding her fate. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I was 15 when my world ended on a Tuesday. My brother Ethan, golden boy, varsity quarterback, mom's favorite, came home with a black eye and a story. Someone at school had been spreading rumors about him. Terrible things. Things that could ruin his reputation, his scholarship chances, his entire future. "It was her," he said, pointing at me across the dinner table. "She's been telling everyone I cheated on the championship exam. She's jealous because I'm actually going somewhere." I remember the exact pattern on our kitchen wallpaper. Tiny blue flowers, faded near the stove. I stared at those flowers while my mother's face transformed from confusion to fury. "That's not true," I whispered. "I never said anything." "Don't lie to me." My mother's voice could have shattered glass. "Your brother heard you. Felicia heard you telling people in the cafeteria." Felicia, Ethan's girlfriend. Of course. My father sat silent, fork halfway to his mouth, a statue wearing a tie. "I didn't..." My voice cracked. "Why would I do that?" "Because you've always been jealous of him." My mother stood up, chair scraping against linoleum. "Since you were children, you can't stand that he's successful." 3 days later, things got worse. Money went missing from my mother's purse. $200 she'd been saving for Ethan's athletic banquet. I was in my room studying for a chemistry test when Ethan appeared in my doorway. For just a second, maybe half a second, I saw something flicker across his face. Something that looked almost like guilt. Then it was gone. "Mom wants to see you downstairs." The whole family was waiting. Father on the couch, still silent. Mother standing like a prosecutor. Ethan by the window, hands in his pockets. "Where's the money?" My mother's voice was ice. "What money?" "The $200 that was in my purse yesterday. The money that's gone today." My stomach dropped. "I didn't take any money." "Your brother saw you going through my room this morning." I looked at Ethan. He met my eyes without flinching. "I came upstairs to get my phone charger. Her door was open. She was standing by Mom's dresser." "I was looking for a hair tie. You know I keep them in the hallway." "Enough." My mother's words were final. "I'm done with the lies. I'm done with you disrupting this family. You have until Friday to find somewhere else to live." The floor wasn't stable anymore. "You're kicking me out?" "You're 15, old enough to understand the consequences. Maybe this will teach you something about truth and responsibility." "Dad?" I turned to my father, desperate. "Dad, please, you know I didn't..." He finally spoke. 4 words that still echo. "Your mother has decided." Friday came. Garbage bag of clothes, $17 from babysitting. The look on Ethan's face as I walked past him, satisfaction masked as concern. I stayed with my friend Keiko for 3 weeks until her parents said they couldn't afford another mouth to feed. Then it was sleeping in the school library until they caught me. Then my car, a 1998 Honda with a broken heater, parked behind a grocery store where the security guard looked the other way. I showered in the school gym at 5:45 a.m. before anyone arrived. I kept my clothes in my locker, did homework under streetlights, got a job at a 24-hour diner, worked the overnight shift, went straight to school smelling like grease and exhaustion. My guidance counselor, Mrs. Patterson, noticed. She's the only one who did. "Where are you living, sweetheart?" The kindness in her voice almost broke me. "I'm managing." That's not what I asked. I told her everything. The lie, the exile, the Honda that wouldn't start when the temperature dropped below freezing. She made phone calls, found me emergency housing through a youth shelter program, helped me apply for early graduation, for scholarships, for a way out. "You're brilliant," she said, reviewing my grades. Straight A's despite everything. "Don't let their choices define your life." I graduated at 16. Full scholarship to University of Washington for computer science. Worked 3 jobs anyway. Couldn't shake the fear of being broke again, of sleeping in that car. College was a blur of code and caffeine and proving something to people who would never know. I created my first app junior year, a resource platform connecting homeless youth with services. It went viral. Tech companies started calling. By 23, I was a senior developer at a mid-size firm. By 25, I'd helped launch a startup that sold for 8 figures. By 27, I was being recruited as Director of Innovation at Cascade Technologies. I bought a condo with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, hung my degrees on the wall, bachelor's, master's, eventually an MBA. I learned to dress like I belonged in boardrooms. Never mentioned where I came from. Dating was complicated. How do you explain to someone that you haven't spoken to your family in a decade? That you spent your 16th birthday sleeping in a car because your brother lied and your parents chose to believe him? My therapist, Dr. Reyes, said I needed to process it. I said I needed to focus on quarterly projections. 10 years, not a single phone call, email, or text. I'd changed my number 3 times anyway. It's funny how the universe works. Cascade Technologies was expanding. We needed to fill 37 positions across departments. HR scheduled interviews for weeks. I usually don't sit in on every interview. That's what department heads are for. But we were hiring a new marketing director, and I wanted to be part of that decision. My assistant, Jenna, brought me coffee at 2:15 p.m. "Next interview's here. Should I send them to the conference room?" "Give me 5 minutes." I was reviewing the resume when something made my hand freeze. The name. It couldn't be. But there it was, printed in professional font. Previous employment at Morrison Enterprises, Seattle. References available upon request. My mother. My hands weren't steady as I pulled up the full application. Employment history showing a job loss 8 months ago. A gap in work since then. Address in Beacon Hill. Not the house I grew up in. They'd moved. Or lost it. "Jenna?" My voice sounded strange. "For the 2:30 interview, can you also pull the applications for the other candidates? All of them?" She returned 10 minutes later with a folder. I flipped through. 3rd application down. My father. Applying for a position in operations. Same address as my mother's application. 4th application. Ethan. My golden boy brother. Applying for a sales position. His resume showed a bachelor's from a state school, not the prestigious university his football scholarship was supposed to take him to. 3 jobs in 7 years. Currently unemployed. They had no idea. The company's hiring portal used a blind review system for initial applications. My name wouldn't have appeared anywhere they could see it. I could have recused myself. Should have, probably. Let someone else handle the interviews. Never let them know I worked there. Dr. Reyes would have told me that was the healthy choice. Instead, I texted Jenna. "I'll handle all 3 interviews personally. Conference room B. Send them in one at a time." I had 15 minutes to decide who I was. The abandoned daughter? The professional executive? Someone caught between both? My phone buzzed. Text from Keiko, my friend who'd housed me all those years ago. "Lunch next week?" I stared at the message. Keiko, who'd shared her food when I had none. Mrs. Patterson, who'd found me housing. Dr. Reyes, who'd helped me understand that survival wasn't the same as healing. What would they want me to do? At 2:28 p.m., I stood in conference room B, adjusting my blazer. $700 suit, diamond studs my ex-girlfriend had given me. The armor of success. My mother walked in at exactly 2:30. She looked older, grayer, thinner in a way that suggested stress, not health. She wore a department store suit that didn't quite fit and carried a portfolio with a broken zipper. She didn't recognize me. Not at first. I'd changed, filled out, grown into my features, learned to carry myself with the confidence that money and achievement provide. My hair was different, professionally styled. I wore contacts instead of glasses. Mrs. Foster? I used her married name and kept my voice neutral. Please, have a seat. She sat, smoothed her skirt, offering a nervous smile. Thank you for meeting with me, Ms. She glanced at her phone, where she'd apparently noted the name. Her face went blank. Ms. Morgan? Morgan, my middle name. The one I'd started using professionally because it sounded stronger, more serious. Because it wasn't the name they'd called when they threw me away. That's right. I folded my hands on the table. I've reviewed your application. 15 years at Morrison Enterprises, laid off 8 months ago due to restructuring. Is that correct? She nodded, regaining composure. Yes, it was unexpected, but these things happen. I'm very interested in this position. I have extensive experience in... Why did you leave your previous position at Hartley & Associates? I interrupted, reading from her resume. The one before Morrison. You were there for 12 years, then there's a 2-month gap. Her face tightened. It was a personal family matter. It didn't affect my work quality. What kind of family matters? With respect, Ms. Morgan, I don't see how that's relevant to this position. I leaned back in my chair. At Cascade, we value integrity and family values. We believe a person's character is reflected in how they treat those closest to them. So I'll ask again, what was the family matter? The color was draining from her face. Something was clicking. The voice, the eyes, something. It was a situation with my daughter. She was going through a difficult phase. A difficult phase? Yes, teenage rebellion, lying, stealing. We had to make tough decisions for the good of the family. The room was very quiet. Outside the window, Seattle was going about its business. Ferries crossing the Sound, cars honking, life continuing, oblivious. What kind of tough decisions? Her hands twisted in her lap. Ms. Morgan, I'm not sure what this has to do with... Humor me. We asked her to live elsewhere for a time, until she could learn responsibility. How old was she? Silence. How old was your daughter when you asked her to live elsewhere? 15. Barely a whisper. And where did this 15-year-old girl go? We assumed she had friends who could... You assumed. I stood up, walked to the window. Couldn't look at her. Did you check? Did you verify that a child, because that's what 15 is legally, a child, had a safe place to sleep? Ms. Morgan, do you know where I slept when I was 16? I turned back to her. In a 1998 Honda Civic with a broken heater, behind a Safeway on Roosevelt. Do you know what it's like to wake up at 5 a.m. so you can shower at school before anyone realizes you're homeless? Her face crumbled. Oh God, no. You recognize me now. She was crying. Full, gasping sobs. Baby, I didn't know. We thought you were with friends. You didn't check. My voice was flat. You didn't call. You didn't verify. You chose to believe a lie because it was easier than admitting your son might be less than perfect. Wait. My father's voice from the doorway. He stood there, already gray at 45, wearing a suit that had seen better years. Your brother lied? I hadn't realized Jenna had sent him in early. Or maybe I'd lost track of time. Get out! My mother sobbed. Bernard, just go! No. He stepped inside, closed the door. Your brother lied? About the rumors? About the money? I looked at him directly for the first time in 10 years. Did you really never question it? I was a straight-A student, never been in trouble, never touched drugs, never missed curfew, never gave you a single reason not to trust me. And you believed, without evidence, that I would suddenly become someone else? He had no answer. The money was for Ethan's gambling debt, I continued. Small stuff at first, betting on games with friends. Then it got bigger. He took Mom's money, blamed me, and you let him. The rumors? He started them himself. I have no idea why. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he liked the attention. Maybe he just wanted to see if he could. How do you know this? My father's voice was barely audible. Because he confessed. I pulled out my phone, opened an email from 3 years ago. He found me on LinkedIn. Send me this drink at 2 a.m. I handed him the phone, watched his face as he read Ethan's rambling confession. The guilt, the admission, the excuse that he'd been a stupid kid and couldn't take it back after so long. My mother looked up. You knew? For 3 years, you knew, and you never what? My voice rose. Never came back to the family that threw me away? Never reached out to the parents who chose their son's lie over their daughter's truth? What exactly did you expect me to do with that information? Ethan arrived at 3:15, 15 minutes late for his interview. He'd gained weight, lost hair. His confidence had worn thin at the edges. He recognized me immediately. Oh, hell. He stopped in the doorway, saw our parents. This is hell. Sit down, I said. He sat. I need to inform you, I spoke clearly, professionally, that all 3 of your applications are being rejected. Cascade Technologies requires honesty and integrity from all employees, and your family history suggests a pattern of dishonesty that poses a liability risk. My mother made a sound. However, I continued, I'm going to give you something you never gave me. A choice. I slid 3 envelopes across the table. These contain information about hiring agencies, resume workshops, and job placement services. Free resources. I've made calls. If you mention my name, they'll help you. Ethan stared at the envelope. Why? Because Mrs. Patterson helped me when I needed it. Because Keiko's family fed me when they could barely feed themselves. Because Dr. Reyes taught me that healing isn't the same as revenge. I stood up. Because I'm not you. My mother was openly weeping. Please, can we... No. The word was gentle, but final. I don't owe you forgiveness. I don't owe you a relationship. I don't owe you anything. I walked to the door, paused. But I'm also not going to become someone who kicks people when they're down. Take the resources, find jobs, build a life. And then, my father's voice cracked. After we do that, can we... I don't know, I said honestly. Maybe someday, maybe never. That's not a decision I'm making today. I opened the door. Jenna was waiting outside, professional, discreet. Please see them out. And Jenna, send a note to HR. We're expanding our corporate charity program. I want to set up a fund for homeless youth. Full scholarships, housing assistance, job training. 7-figure initial investment. Of course, Ms. Morgan. I walked back to my office, sat in my chair, looked out at the Seattle skyline, at the ferries crossing the water, at the life I'd built from $17 and a garbage bag. My phone buzzed. Keiko, lunch next week? I smiled, typed back, absolutely, my treat. I've got something to tell you. The glass doors still reflected someone I barely recognized. But maybe, finally, I was starting to like who I saw. If you've ever been told you're not enough, remember, their inability to see your worth says everything about them and nothing about you. You get to decide who you become, not them, never them.